A year ago, our world changed, yet so many things remain the same. We still drink our coffee black, because that's how we like it. G hasn't moved his shop, and Alice's garden still grows, even in the cold. We still paint murals that celebrate our culture and honor our community. Sherman Phoenix is still standing, and Black Lens is still showing movies. Only now they're on your TV. A year ago, our world changed, yet so many things remain the same. We still go to work, school, and raise our kids one day at a time. We laugh, love, and live, all in the same breath, and fight the good fight, even when we have no fight left in us. It's who we are, it's where we come from, and it's what we do. We are survivors, overcomers. We are Milwaukee.
Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison365, with your daily update for Wednesday, February 10th. We appreciate the partnership we have with Milwaukee Film. We are the media sponsor, I guess, of Milwaukee Film Festival's Black History Month programming, which is 40 films, several dozen events, which are really exciting. It's virtual streaming experience for the films, but we're actually co-hosting a couple of events with them tonight, 6 p.m. right here on this very Facebook feed. Is a live event. It's a panel discussion called Girl Dads in Search of Tender Masculinity. And then tomorrow night, it'll be a Black Oxygen podcast live panel. If you've been watching this program, you know I'm a big fan of Black Oxygen, which is Madison365's podcast, hosted by Angela Russell, who is the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at CUNA Mutual Group. That's her day job. And she's also a terrific interviewer. I've known her for 15 years, probably. She was a policy analyst for Governor Jim Doyle, just down the hall from me when I was the communications director for Lieutenant Governor Barbara Lawton. So we were like kids together in the Capitol many years ago. So thank you, Michelle, for give me. I hope that wasn't on my end, the lag. So anyway, watch that tomorrow night. It'll be a great thing. It's going to be a terrific panel of former and future Black Oxygen guests. And again, it'll be right here live on our Facebook page tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Now, to the news, Angela Russell, Dana, what was the name? Asking for the name again. Angela Russell is her name. If you go anywhere you get podcasts, just search for Black Oxygen. Or you can go to our website at madison365.org/Black Oxygen, no space. And all of her previous episodes are there. It's a podcast that we started talking about. She first brought us the idea probably in the summer of 2019, and we officially launched it in the summer of 2020. And it's just a terrific, I don't know, it's one of my favorite podcasts now, and I'm not just saying that. It's great. So let's get to some news. Let's do COVID first, and then we'll do some. I've been kind of watching, and I've still got it on with no sound, but the impeachment trial, it's just wild. We'll talk a bit more about that, but let's hit the COVID numbers first, because the COVID numbers, it's kind of a good news, bad news kind of day today. Good news being we continue to the indicators, the sort of the primary stats that I look at continue to improve, which that's the good news. 821 new cases today, which is more than we've seen in the past 3 days, but we've also seen more tests today. 5,813 tests today, new results, 821 positive. But the test positivity rate over the past 7 days is 3.9%. Now remember, I'm trying to get that number down to 3, right? 3 is kind of, there's nothing magic about the number 3, but 3% is kind of where public health people tell you if you're below 3% positive test rate, you're in good shape, right? It's like 3, if it gets down to 3%, we can open schools. If it gets up to 3%, we have to close schools, that kind of thing. We'll talk about schools again in a minute. But to get that down to 3.9%, when as recently as November 1st, it was like 14%, which is outrageously out of control. To have that steadily decrease a little bit every day down to 3.9, that's good news. That's like unmitigated good news, and I'm happy about that. The average number of new cases per day is now 919, which, there was a time when that would have seemed astronomically high, but also there's a time when that was 6,000 every day. So another number that is a good number is the number of active cases is just over 12,000, which is about 2.3% of our total number of cases we've ever had. We have now had in Wisconsin 551,081 positive confirmed cases. We've probably had a lot more than that, but those are the ones we have confirmed. Of those, a little bit over 12,000 are still active right now. Again, that was a number that was like 70,000 at one point. It was like 22% of all cases were currently active back in November. So to have that down to 2.3% is pretty good. Another piece of good news before we get to the not so good news is that we've had over 9,500 people complete their second dose of the vaccine, so get their, complete the series since yesterday, which means that that's accelerating, right? A couple weeks ago, when they first started reporting the vaccination data, it was about 5,000 every day. Yesterday, we had over 8,000. Today, we have over 9,500. So what that tells me is, like, we're getting there. We're going to get there. We are now at 183,758 people have completed their vaccine series, and then about 441,000 people have gotten the first shot, but are waiting for the second one now. The other thing I'll say is that Dane County still leads the way, and this they don't have the people who've completed the series broken down by county, but they do have the number of vaccine doses that have been given broken down by county. So this isn't the best number to use, but in Dane County, about 102,000 doses have been given. Not sure how many of those have been given, or the second dose versus the first or whatever. But in Milwaukee County, it's about 101,000. So Milwaukee County is catching up to Dane County. It's a little bit ridiculous that Dane County was so far ahead of Milwaukee County, considering Dane County has about half the population of Milwaukee County, but that's the way it shook out. But Milwaukee County is catching up. So that's also decent news. Now, the bad news. 35 more fatalities reported today. Which puts our current death toll at 6,129. We know that we still have fatalities that are being reported from January. Not a lot yet from February. So we're hoping that as our spread numbers continue to go down, that our fatalities will also go down. We also know hospitalizations are down, only about 460 people in the hospital right now. Okay, so that's good. But these fatalities are still from people that got sick 8-10 weeks ago and then died 3 or 4 weeks ago from so the death is always going to be kind of lagging behind the cases. So it's just bad news. and if 35 people reported died in a single day. Our current 7-day average of reported fatalities is 25 a day. That just still feels like a lot to me. And that's a bummer. It's more than a bummer. It's a tragedy. So that's going to linger with us as however optimistic we can be that there's vaccines coming, that the numbers are better, that we're all, we're doing what we got to do. We're distancing, we're masking. We've got the spread under control. We're still losing a lot of neighbors and friends and family every day. And we're going to look back at this time as a significant tragedy. And we're living it, and it feels terrible. And I don't want to gloss over that, you know what I mean? So that is, I think, that's pretty much what I have for COVID. One other COVID-related story that we'll talk about before we get to other news is that the Madison Metropolitan School District announced today that they are returning students to in-person instruction. It's going to be very slow and very phased, and I wonder, just speculating, I doubt that they'll get older kids back this year. Just the way they laid out the schedule. What they're going to do is bring back kindergartners on March 9th, first and second graders on March 16th, 4-year-old kindergarten March 23rd, and then wait and see for everybody else. So given that, if you think okay, so then first week of April, maybe the next group, maybe third, fourth graders. By the time you bring back 5th, 6th, 7th graders, it's middle of May already. On that timeline, or it's at least end of April. So do you open up? Do you go through everything to open up high schools for the month of May? I don't know. So, yeah, Margie. Yep, I did see that yesterday. Margie notes that Middle Cross Plains is going back for all grades. Now, again, this is the context of this is two things. First of all, Dane County positive test rate is below 2% and has been for some time. Now, back in the spring, I guess probably about May, I interviewed Dr. Sethi, the epidemiologist from UW, and a couple other people, and they said, and he said, if positive test rate is below 2%, he'd be comfortable opening schools. Basically, opening schools unrestricted. If your positive test rate is below 2%, school is safe. That was his assessment. Obviously, that's oversimplified a little bit. But so, given that, I think this is not a terrible thing. Now, the problem is the second thing I was going to mention is that Madison Metro School District buildings are very old, are in need of improvement, and do not have the best ventilation. Now, unfortunately, they had a media availability at noon today, and we just didn't have any staff available for it. So I'm going to be following up with the school district on a couple questions, just ourselves. But I know they did bring in a medical consultant person to this media briefing who cited some success in some other school districts, but unfortunately, we're just not comparable. Right? You can't say, well, a small district of 2,000 students in northern Wisconsin did it, so we here in Madison with 25,000 students can do it. That's just not comparable. And the other one that she cited was in the South, where you can open the windows. But there are a lot of school district buildings in Madison where literally the windows don't even open. Right? So unfortunately, here in Mahorb where I am, they've gotten kids back to school part-time, 2 days a week in small pods of 10 with the windows open on the bus. And it seems to be going okay. It's just Madison district is just not comparable. So I can understand why some parents are very hesitant about this. Also, there seems to be a bit of an issue with communication, that the staff learned about this decision at the same time as the parents. And maybe they should have been looped in a little bit earlier as well. So one of the questions that has been brought to me and that I have asked is, was there any outside medical expert or facilities expert consulted on the ventilation question? Because that seems to be key, right? So, we have a month until kids go back, and it's just kindergartens at first. We know that kids that age are much less at risk. So it does seem like, not entirely irresponsible, but there are some questions still that we will we'll be looking at. This is to me, it's not so much the kids as it is what Leslie brings up here, which is staff. You're going to be putting adults in a building with other adults. I mean, we know that can be problematic, right? But again, with positive test rates below 2%, it's much less risky than it was a month ago or 3 months ago. So I'm trying not to take a real hard opinion on this. I think had they tried to do this in November, December, I would have jumped up and down and said, you're crazy. But right now, it looks much less dangerous, certainly. And with the understanding that that these numbers, the positive test rates, have been steadily marching downward. And if they continue to do so for the next 4 weeks, we'll be below 1% when kids are coming back to school. If, however, one of those variants catches hold and we start to creep back upward, they could always change course on that. If our positive test rate suddenly is over 3 for some reason, all of a sudden here in Dane County, they could change their mind. And I would urge them to if that happens. So we will see. I know teachers unions have been opposed to this, obviously for obvious reasons, but it is true that teachers will very likely be in the next round. I don't think it's official yet at the state level, but I know some communities have been vaccinating teachers. There's not enough time between now and March 9th to vaccinate kindergarten teachers even, or all elementary teachers. But I think they will be kind of in the next round pretty soon. I don't know what up to date means. Amy says, received a letter showing that our building's air filters were up to date. I'm not worried about air filters. I'm not even talking about air filters. That's a really weird thing to focus on. Yeah, you need air filters. Yeah, but you also need actual ventilation. Air filter is not ventilation. I'm not sure why they thought they were. Why they thought that was important. Oh, Michelle, thank you. March 1st is when Madison Metro School District will start to get vaccinated. Unfortunately, that's not enough time. That's only 8 days before you're going to start. It takes a month to get vaccinated at least. And this is another question. Okay, so they're eligible for it March 1st. Are we going to have vaccines? We're going to have the doses here? We don't know. That is a big, important question. Now, someone else asked a question. Leslie, again, asked, what data do we have on the new variants? Very little. It does not seem that they are prevalent in Wisconsin right now. We know there was one case of B1117, sorry. That's the UK variant, identified in Eau Claire County several weeks ago. And there was another case confirmed in Wisconsin earlier this week, but they didn't tell us what county. And so there does not seem to be, at this moment, community spread of that variant. That said, they haven't been really doing a lot of genomic sequencing on these things to know. So there might be more of that than we know about right now. So right now, it doesn't seem to be really bad. We haven't seen any cases of the South Africa variant. So right now, it seems like there's not a problem in Wisconsin, but that can change very quickly, which means we have to keep doing what we're doing, right? We cannot say, oh, good, we're at 3.9%, we're 2% in Dane County. Let's have a party. Like, even though it's allowed, that's not the best idea. Pernisha asked a question a while ago, and I'm sorry, I kind of forgot. About outdoor concerts. That Bruce Stevens is going to be having some outdoor concerts later in the spring, which some people have said is not a good idea. Thing is that they're scheduled for May. The first one's not till May. So I kind of think there's a gamble there. That they're kind of taking a guess that these numbers will continue to go where they're going, and it'll actually be not so terribly unsafe. Now keeping in mind that I don't want to jump to the defense of big concerts right now, but I also don't want to say like, no, that's never appropriate, because here's a couple of things. We have not seen all last summer into the fall. We didn't see any major outbreaks come from outdoor events. First of all. Secondly, by May, our test positive rate might be well below 3%. If it keeps going the way it's going, it'll be in the 2% range. So that, first of all, even when the virus was really prevalent, it didn't seem to spread very much outdoors in the summer. So I think they're kind of taking a risk that, first of all, Dane County will allow events on that scale by then. And secondly, that such events would be safe. Certainly isn't safe now, but it might be by May. So I understand where they're coming from. I'm not necessarily, I don't think we can necessarily declare that that would be a terrible thing right now. I think it's a little bit optimistic. I feel like we should be getting this thing under control before we even start talking about it. So I understand the aversion to it. But I also understand where they're coming from, that by May, maybe it gives us something to work for, something to hope for. So we're going to take a very short pause. I have a few other news items. We can talk a little bit about the Trump impeachment trial, which I've been watching all day, and a couple other local stories for you. Stay with us. We'll be back in about 30 seconds. Thank you for staying with us. Let's talk a little bit about national news and the impeachment trial. As you remember, yesterday, the United States Senate voted 56-44 to continue the trial, to have a trial at all. There was an argument as to whether it was even constitutional to try a president who's no longer in office, and of course it is. So they voted to continue. So today, the House impeachment managers, they're on a break for now. But they've been laying out the case, and it's been quite harrowing, to be honest with you. They spent a lot of the day just pointing out to President Trump's words in the months leading up to January 6th. Okay, they are not really focused. You remember that he gave the speech that day, right, where he's like, "Fight like hell. We're gonna go to the Capitol and fight like hell. You have to take back your country." But they're not entirely focused on just that speech. Their argument is that for months, going back to September, October, he was already saying the only way we're going to lose this election is if they steal it. He's already laying groundwork. And then after the election, he convinced them. He convinced these people that their vote had been stolen. So of course, and he was using militaristic and violent rhetoric, and of course they're going to do this. So it's completely predictable that these people he's feeding these lies to are going to react in the way that they did on January 6th. That's the basic argument. But what has been really, I don't know, it's nauseating a little bit that they've got this video, a lot of video clips, a lot of which we haven't seen before. This last most recent portion of their argument has been just a blow by blow of January 6th, because even though everybody they're talking to in the Senate was there, they only saw what they saw. They didn't see the whole big picture. And I've never seen this level of detail on exactly everything that went down in the Capitol on January 6th. They've got like an overhead map showing like where all the people were, and video from participants, as well as security video that hasn't been seen before. And it is, I'm not a prude, right? I don't get upset by violent movies or anything like that. But I am nauseated by this footage. It's really difficult to see. And then what's wild is everybody who's storming the Capitol and chanting about hanging Mike Pence, they've all got their phones out and they're all recording it. It's just astounding. The privilege and the assumption that there will be no consequences. It's really wild. So anyway, they're gonna resume. I think they're on a dinner break right now, so they're gonna resume testimony a little bit later, and then into tomorrow, and then the president's lawyers will have their chance. And the chances of actually a conviction are pretty slim. Although the analysis has been that these the House managers, the prosecutors, have been doing a pretty remarkably good job at making their case. All right, so let's forget that. Let's get on to some local news here. We've got a profile this afternoon on the website, Madison365.org. Chris P.V. Harry is the assistant dean of pre-college programs at UW-Madison. And these are programs for kids ages 5 to 18, like of every age. Anybody in K through 12 school can engage in one way or another with UW to kind of lay that foundation and be ready for college. Way back when I was a kid in the 1980s, we had college for kids, Now it's way beyond that now. There's so much more to it than that. But especially for kids of color to be exposed and to, lay that groundwork. We know that people of color are woefully represented on the University of Wisconsin campus. So one of Chris's, charges is to diversify and make sure that people coming into UW represent the entire state, right? So our reporter, Mackenzie Crum, interviewed him and has a nice profile this afternoon on the site. Also today, it is the Delta's Heart and Soul ball coming up. They normally have a big ball and it's a big fundraiser for scholarships and things. And of course they can't do that this year. So on the 13th, they're going to have a virtual event, and the headliner is Eric Benet. He's actually from Milwaukee. I think people kind of forget that he's from Milwaukee. But that'll be a terrific event. And that we've got a preview of that on the website, on the front page at Madison365.org. Also coming up on February 27th, this is the International Festival at Overture Center for the Arts, but it'll be virtual. And it'll be hosted by Dr. Ed Helms, who is the Vice President of Equity and Innovation there. International Festival is a cool event because this is one of my favorite events in Madison. I was the PR guy at Overture Center for a long time. And this is one of my favorite events to promote because what's really the best thing about it is it's this year it's 15 countries are represented. I'm not sure how many acts there are going to be, but back in the day we had 30 something acts over the course of a day, and it was all free. And the best part about it is these people are representing cultures from every continent, from dozens of countries, but these are all local people. These are people who live here in Dane County, but who represent the entire world. And I just love that about this. This picture you're seeing is Atamavu Drum and Dance. It's an African drum and dance group, and they're terrific. And every performance is amazing, and it's all free. But unfortunately, you can't see it at the venue this year. But it will be virtual, and it'll be a lot of the performances will be pre-recorded. But there's also going to be cooking demonstrations of different ethnic foods and cultural spotlights and more. And that's going to be starting at 10 a.m. on February 27th. All right, that is your news update for today. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I do want to mention one thing. For those of you who have stuck around, you're obviously like the core news people. And what I've been looking at some numbers, because that's part of my job, is to just keep track of, how many people are watching and listening and reading the news on our site. And we're a nonprofit, so we're not chasing clicks, but we still pay attention. And what I've noticed is that as the COVID news gets better, fewer people are watching, which is, it's just, that's the way it is, right? If it bleeds, it leads, because if I'm giving you doom and gloom every day, more people are going to be interested in that than, everything's fine. Okay, I can keep scrolling, right? That said, we still have lots of important news, and it's important to know those details, and it's important to be informed, and there's all this other stuff that we talk about every day that is important. Community news is important. So I would love it. And what I'm not going to do is try to find the doom and gloom. I'm not going to purposely try to find bad news so more people watch. I'm just not going to do that. So I wonder if you can help me out and just hit the little share on your Facebook feed. Subscribe on YouTube, because this is live on YouTube also. But if you subscribe on YouTube, you get a notice there too. And also, by the way, next week I'm going to talk about this more, but we're going to be making a big YouTube announcement pretty soon. So get yourself subscribed to our YouTube channel. But the more, because your friends trust you, you hit that share button and say, watch Madison365 news update every day at 4:00. That'll help us just continue to get this news to people, and to, just keep us growing and expanding, and also that helps us also secure sponsorships and that kind of stuff. That's a great idea, Pranisha. Social emotional health weekly segment on how parents can help their kids prepare to return. I've actually thought about that. I'm not sure we can do it weekly, but we can definitely have somebody on to talk about that issue, because it's important. It's not going to be easy to navigate, reassimilation, whatever. Thank you, Scott. Scott's been talking me up. I appreciate it very much. But yeah, talk us up, because not only, it's not, like I said, we don't run on numbers really, but we have companies, we have corporate partners, we have other nonprofits that sponsor us, that fund us. We have foundation funding, and they want to know that we're reaching as many people as we can because they those sponsors understand the importance of this news. Milwaukee Film Festivals are sponsored for today, even though that's a partnership. That's not like a money exchange. That's they're partnering us because they believe in us, and we believe in them, right? And the more people we get this news to, and more people we get tuning in, this is more proof that we're important and we matter. And it's just good for people, right? A well-informed democracy is it's just a better democracy, right? So anyway, that's my pitch. I appreciate you staying with me. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we will see you again tomorrow.
This is 365 Media.